What's up, world? It's your boy Ross Mack, and welcome back to the Next Frontier Conference Expo. Today, I'm excited and truly honored to introduce you guys to Dr. Derek J. Robinson. He's an award-winning ER physician and an author of a new book, Improbable MD, From the Bayou to the Boardroom. Welcome, Dr. Robinson. How you doing?
Ross, it's good to be with you and good to be here at the conference and excited to have a conversation.
Without a doubt. So look, not too long ago, you sat where our audience members are actually sitting today. So first, share with us the connection between STEM and medicine.
Listen, I think medicine is one of the most exciting places to bring all aspects of STEM together. And you're right, it wasn't long ago that I was contemplating what my future would be and how to really satisfy that craving that I had for the love of science. But I will tell you that, science, if we start with that, so when we think about medicine, science is really embedded all in it. When we think about how the human body functions, how it heals, how different medical conditions may manifest themselves over time, and how disease processes occur, and what are the things that we need to do to address them, that really involves science. And even as you think about a really curious presentation that a patient comes in to the ER with, I'm an emergency medicine physician, so I'm used to meeting new people all the time with very interesting clinical scenarios. And so really that scientific interest comes out literally with every patient. We think about technology, for example, we use all sorts of different information and devices as we provide care for patients. We share information electronically. We use technology to measure different types of vital signs, to send EKGs and images of MRIs and X-rays and that sort of thing. So technology is a part of everything that we do in medicine today. And then engineering is totally a part of what I do, whether it is using a special device that's tiny, that has a camera on it, that allows me to look into certain small parts of the body that otherwise would have required surgery, or using an ultrasound machine at the bedside to take a look at someone's heart or to look at one of their organs in the digestive tract. Engineers help put these really cool devices together. And then mathematics, so one thing that we're always doing is converting pounds to kilograms and ordering medications, based upon both a weight as well as a volume, and sometimes over a period of time. We use calculations to figure out different parameters of blood pressure and the like. So STEM, for me, every single day when I'm providing care as a doctor, I'm bringing it all together. And I think it's one of the perfect professions for someone that is in love with STEM to consider, and allow them to bring all those interests together.
That's awesome, man. So look, I think I can speak for myself and maybe a lot of people in the audience. I think we all have seen a ton of TV shows that shows all the excitement that's happening in the ER, things like Grey's Anatomy or something. So can you describe an exciting experience that you've had being in the ER?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting periods I've had as an emergency medicine physician or ER doc was during my residency training program. So one of the things they do is try to push us to learn as much as possible so that we can be independent and take care of some of the sickest patients. And so during that training program for 2 years, I served as a flight physician. And typically what that meant was I'm in the ER, I'm taking care of, 3 or 4 patients at a time, and I'm constantly communicating with my coworkers because I might have to take off to go on a flight. So we carry a pager as well as a radio, and we'll get toned out sometimes that, hey, there's been a major accident on the side of a highway somewhere. They need me to go meet them up on the helipad. And so I talk to the other doctors, sign my patients out, literally run to the elevator, got a special card at whoever's on the elevator to bring it all the way back down to the ER. They got to get off. I get on, go up to the top of the hospital. Sometimes they're ready to go and it's taking me a little longer to get there. So you come out, rotors are going on a helicopter. You can smell the jet fuel and feel the heat. Hop on a helicopter and up, off and away. Chicago's a busy place. And so you've got a bunch of airports around, aircraft coming in and out. But we'd whiz off, to a particular location. Right now I'm thinking about a particular scene response we went to, which means you're responding to an EMS call, fire trucks and police. And so you land at the LZ, we get out, go over to the ambulance. They've extracted this patient from a mangled car. We do some procedures to stabilize the patient, put her on a helicopter, and then we lift off again. And it's just sort of an amazing experience. And then we fly into another hospital to take the patient to the trauma center and deliver her there safely. that's been some of the most exciting stuff that I've dealt with. Now, I will say there are other things that are exciting to doctors that aren't necessarily exciting to patients. They're the same things you see on TV that get you excited. So we have patients that come in that may be suffering from a gunshot wound or stab wound. I've actually held the heart of a patient in my hand that we've had to open the patient's chest up to try to stop bleeding in an emergent situation. So we've done some of those heroic things that have helped save lives and make people better. Not every day is like what you see on Grey's Anatomy or ER, but some days are. And it's exciting to be able to pull all of those things together and to make a difference in the lives of others. And it's a unique privilege to do that.
Well, man, I have to say those are some crazy, insane experiences. So obviously, thank you for everything you do. But I bet a lot of people in the audience can see themselves walking in your shoes. But is there a time, a moment in time at all, that stands out in your mind when you truly said, you know what, I want to be a doctor?
I would say that there were periods of time when I was growing up, let's say during middle school and moving into high school, where I was thinking about, hey, maybe I might want to, be a doctor. Didn't quite latch onto it. I loved science. So when I was in high school, I took a number of AP classes. I took AP in American history, but I also took AP Biology 1, AP Chemistry. And really it was during my AP Biology 2 class where we had to do a research project. And somehow that research project took me to the medical school library in my hometown. And I literally randomly picked a journal off of the shelf, and it had something to do with nuclear medicine. So I thought, well, hey, that's kind of interesting. Nuclear, we think about bombs and that kind of stuff. And medicine, how do those things come together? And I had no idea how to put that together. So I was talking with my mom about it. She had a friend of hers that she grew up with who she knew worked in a hospital, knew some things about the heart. We had a conversation. He explained to me how through scientific processes, they can put tracers in the blood, radioactive tracers that can then move throughout the blood and through the heart and allow you to see the image of how the heart is functioning and perfusing. But more important than him explaining that to me was he invited me to come to the hospital where he worked. So this gentleman was not a doctor. He was what we call a cardiovascular technician. So he worked with heart specialists all the time. So we went into this place called a cath lab, which is sort of like an operating room. It has sort of a control room that has clear glass, but it has lead in it to protect you from some of the radiation that they use to do images of the body. And in there, they have all these screens with pictures of different tracings of the heart and images of the heart and blood vessels that go around it. And then in the actual operating room, you have a series of staff, including the heart specialists. And our friend was the guy who stands right next to the heart specialist, passes him all the instruments and equipment. Mm-hmm. And basically, this is a place that they go when patients are having heart disease and they need to have a stent put in, for example. They use a small catheter to go in through the blood vessel, deploy a device, sort of like a short straw, to help open a blood vessel so that the person can continue to get good flow of blood to a part of the heart that was diseased. And that was really awesome. They had nice music. Everybody seemed to be chill and professional. And I was like, hey, I think this is something that I could do. And in talking with him further, I learned that he actually wanted to become a doctor, but wasn't successful in doing that. But he was very close to it. But he carved out his own niche. And I think this is great for the audience. He got a number of patents on devices that were used in the cath lab where he worked to help make the process of providing care for patients easier. So even though he didn't get his target career goal, he carved out his own niche that was unique and really influential. And for me as a young person, to not only get that exposure, but also have someone hand you not one, not two, not three, but probably 6 or 7 patent documents really showed me that, hey, there's a lot more that I can accomplish than what I've even been dreaming about and thinking about. So that really kind of set my course, at least internally, to say, hey, I think I want to become a doctor. But I was still a bit hesitant to declare it because I didn't have anyone in my family who was a doctor. I didn't have any individual in my community that I could see and really identify with who was a physician. But later I discovered through sports, because competitive swimming was something that I did in late middle school and throughout high school, I discovered that some of the parents of my friends were actually doctors. And I figured this out because we'd go to their homes and we'd spend time there, between events, doing bonding activities as teammates. And then I learned that 2 of them were doctors. And so through a series of conversations, I was able to get some additional encouragement to make me feel comfortable saying, hey, this is something that I want to do. But Ross, to be honest with you, I was hesitant about failing. I didn't want to say, hey, I want to do this and then not be successful. So I'm sure there's some people in the audience that probably feel the same way. They're interested in doing something, but they're kind of struggling with what does it mean to not succeed.
Mm. Well, Doc, I mean, your story is amazing story. It's great to hear it. And obviously you and we go back a long time. So this is obviously dope, but
Go way back.
way back, right? So I was, young and trying to figure things out in high school, but you've always been that person who've always been confident, a great role model and a professional. So, let's talk about something new, right? You recently just dropped a new book, right? New book titled Improbable MD, From the Bayou to the Boardroom. So one, congrats, major kudos to that. But why did you write the book? And tell us a little bit about the
Appreciate it.
title.
Yeah, thanks. I was really excited to embark on this project of writing a book. It's not something that I dreamed about doing, but I will tell you, moving through the pandemic and seeing a lot of losses of patients, both as a doctor as well as a family member, and also being called upon repeatedly to be out in the community virtually, providing information, giving folks hope and some perspective on the future and how they could stay safe. I knew that there was a lot of need from a health perspective. And then Ross, as there's importance around mentoring as well. That's something I did a lot of, earlier on, both at the college level and at the high school level. And so I was trying to figure out what is a good way that I can give back to others, and more importantly, share my story to really be inspiring to them. So I said, hey, let me do some writing. And I found that to be therapeutic. And I said, hey, let me just push forward and write a book. And eventually I came up with this entitled Improbable MD. And part of the reason for that title was because I think people don't really understand your journey unless you share it with them. And like you said, folks, they'll see you at the station that you're at in life right now, but they don't know the pathway that took you to get there. And I think there are people in the audience who can definitely identify with many aspects of my journey. And that means in so many ways, I'm just like them. And it's important for me to share that with them so that they can be bold and be courageous and reach for the stars and really reach to pursue dreams that maybe, like me, they felt were outside of their reach. And that was really the thing that inspired me. So I wanted to share both the blessings that I've experienced, how the village kind of wrapped their arms around me at different times, some of the challenges that I ran into, because a lot of times we see folks that are in positions of what we might define to be successful, and the grass looks green, right? And we may assume, oh, they had it all made easy in a certain certain series of things that they didn't have to deal with that maybe others do. But sharing that story and demystifying the journey, I think, is important. So Improbable MD, From the Bayou to the Boardroom, talks about me growing up in Louisiana and becoming a physician, and then also working outside of healthcare in the business environment, working with some of the folks that you work with, making things move forward in the business world. And I thought it was really important to tell that journey. So I was excited to get that book project done. And as you said, we dropped it recently and look forward to folks in the audience getting a chance to read it.
Let's go. I love it. I love it. So look, Doc, I'm going to be honest with you, man. And I wouldn't be Ross Mack if I didn't ask you the questions about the money, right? Let's talk about the economics of being a doctor, right? I think everybody understands college is expensive. Then you got medical school is also expensive. But we all have heard doctors make a crazy bag, right? Y'all make good money. So honestly, I think, some people might not really want to chase the dream because at first glance, it might look expensive, right? A lot of years in school. So when you don't come from a family with means, like many are told, look, maybe just find something else that you could get instant gratification, quick money, right? So what do you say to the audience members right now? Like, what do you think they need to know?
Right, man. Great question. I've always respected that about you. You always have your eyes on the economics of things. But you're right. So it's a long journey. College can be expensive, and many people in our audience are already kind of grappling with how to move through that process. And so certainly it's important for folks to understand the difference between loans and scholarships and grants, and ensuring that you're in a good school that can help you realize your dreams, but also balancing the cost as well. And certainly at the college level, your resources at home can play an important role. And so your parents, and others are going to be engaged with that decision process, right? How do we not break the bank, but ensure that you're able to get that college education? But when you think about moving forward to graduate or professional school, so whether it's master's in engineering or PhD, MD, some of those other professional schools, the secret that most folks don't know, especially if you don't have folks in your family who have gone to graduate or professional school, is the biggest thing is getting in. And if you can get in, generally you can get federal student loans that'll help cover most of the costs for your tuition as well as your living expenses. So even though it seems like this big number, I got to figure out the college piece, and I got to figure out, a medical school piece, for example, and the profession of medicine, I would say don't be discouraged by that amount. And as you noted, generally doctors make good money. You do have to do something called a residency program after medical school. So again, they back up and say traditional path is 4 years of college, followed by 4 years of medical school. And then after medical school, you do a residency program, which could be anywhere between 3 to 7 years generally. During that residency program, you make a modest income, enough to cover your housing and food and, pay a few bills, not to live an extravagant lifestyle. And then generally when you finish that, then you get, payment that's commensurate with being, a full-fledged doctor. Now, not all doctors make the same amount of money, and the amount of money they make is not always commensurate with the amount of work that they put into it, right? So some of this ends up being supply and demand. So some specialties where you have fewer doctors, sometimes their charges are higher and they get compensated a bit more. But nevertheless, there are plenty of jobs in healthcare. Doctors generally always have a place to work. There's plenty of need and opportunities to contribute. They live comfortable lives. And you're right, it is a delayed gratification journey because you don't get all that gratification early on. Similar to what you teach folks when you're talking to them about investing, right? So it's not about making all the money tomorrow or the next year. You're creating a foundation for the future, also a foundation for the opportunity to contribute and make the lives of others better. So to sum it all up, I think it's worth it. But the right reason to do it is because you're interested not only in the science and the technology, engineering, and mathematics components of it, but because you want to enhance the lives of others and make people healthier and better. And then as a reward for that, you'll be well compensated and able to take care of all the tuition that you had to invest, from a college perspective and graduate or medical school, and be able to live comfortably.
Well, that's great. That's great to know, right? Because at the end of the day, it's some years in school, but at the end of the day, you're well compensated. So thank you for sharing that. And there you have it, people. Dr. Derrick J. Robinson, ER physician, healthcare executive, and author of the new book, Improbable MD. So to learn more about Dr. Derrick Robinson, you can visit him on his website, www.drderrickrobinson.com. I'm sure it'll be at the bottom of this screen. And Dr. Robinson, as always, man, it's great having you with us today. It's your boy, Ross Mack. And everybody go enjoy the rest of the Next Frontier Conference Expo.